I'm just going to share my screen and get our document up on the window. Hey, are folks able to see that all right? Maybe Addie, if you could just do a thumbs up just so I can tell. Okay, awesome. Cool. All right. So thank you so much, folks, for joining in on our call here today as members from Res Life as well as off-campus housing are here to go over some open house details, maybe a little bit about living on campus and what you can expect, coming to Acadia and living as part of the communities that we hold here within its confines. So welcome to you. And before we get started, we just wanted to say Gwe, which is hello in the traditional Mi'kmaq language, which is the Indigenous folks who are otherwise in Nova Scotia, in which the province is so called in the territory that they reside upon. And we want to firstly begin by recognizing that we are in the stolen lands that we call Nova Scotia, and we are in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people, in which this territory is covered by treaties of peace and friendship, which the Mi'kmaq, Wolastoqiyik, and Passamaquoddy peoples first signed with the British Crown in 1726. These treaties were intended to recognize Mi'kmaq Wolastoqiyik title and to establish a rule for what to be an ongoing relationship between nations. And we must recognize African Nova Scotians as distinct peoples whose histories, legacies, and truths have been a part of Mi'kma'ki and Turtle Island for over 400 years. Dr. Jason Brown, an Indigenous Maori professor from the University of Auckland in New Zealand, said that in an effort towards reconciliation, we must incorporate the language of our land spoken first over those that dominate and are spoken predominantly today. And so may we all actively work to decolonize our efforts and incorporate more Indigenous practices into our work through the guidance of knowledge keepers, elders, and direction through the Truth and Reconciliation Commission calls to action. So Gwe, welcome to you. All right. A little bit about us. I'll pass the mic over to Addie, and she can introduce herself first.
Hi, everybody. My name is Addie. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm our residence accommodations coordinator on campus. My job revolves around occupancy management and residence, as well as STARAS, which is our booking system where all of our information is stored. The applications for residents for the academic year, as well as the summer and winter, are also part of what I do. So any kind of application launch, that would be me. And also what's going on right now is room selection, which that I am responsible for as well. So I'll answer lots of questions about that later on.
Awesome. Maybe Mary Kate, I'll go next and then I'll pass the mic off to you, but I'll just quickly do my thing. My name is Brett LeGros. My pronouns are he, him. I'm the coordinator of residence education. And so my position here on campus is essentially all about creating the student experience for those living on campus through the creation of experiences implemented by our RA teams, as well as engaging folks in some out of classroom learning and opportunities that help enhance one's belonging and connection to Acadia.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mary Kate Dawson. My pronouns are she, her. I'm actually a student at Acadia, and I have the privilege of being able to work on campus as well. So I work in the off-campus housing department, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that later throughout the presentation.
Awesome. So as we start to dive into our campus here a bit, we just want to kind of give a quick overview. So Addie, we'll pass the mic over to you.
We can't hear Addie.
Sorry, everybody. I'm still muted.
Okay.
Thank you, Janet.
No problem.
So here is our little campus overview. We have 11 housing options on campus. One of them is displayed here in this photograph. That's Whitman House, or also known around campus as Tully, which is for our female and non-binary identifying students on campus. If that is something that you are interested in and somewhere that you would be interested in living, that's one of the residence buildings that you can choose during the room selection process going on right now. And then we have 10 other housing options on campus. All of our housing options on campus are within a 5 to 7 minute walk to all the academic buildings. I actually just got one of our student staff in the office here to do a walk from the building that's furthest away to a academic building, and the walk was about 6 minutes. So our campus is small and compact, and everything is very, very convenient. Each building on campus has an individually celebrated community and culture in every building. And if you have any specific questions about specific communities or specific buildings, please save those for the end. And Brent and I and maybe Mary Kate, I'm not sure. Did you live on campus?
I did not.
Okay, so Brent and I can answer some questions about our buildings on campus and the communities they have. And lastly, another great thing about our campus is that we're located right in the heart of Wolfville, which is a small town with a super vibrant community and lots of things for you to do. So we're going to continue on to our next slide.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks. And just building off of that, obviously, we're trying to make a house a home here while you're at Acadia, and that kind of comes down to how we create community, and lots of that comes into discussing what features or what do we have in place to really help create that. And it really does start within the buildings themselves with our student leadership team through the RAs, which are resident assistants, as well as the RHA, which is through the Acadia Student Union. It's a group of student leaders where anyone living on campus within one of the buildings that we have, you're able to sign up to be a part of a larger community and run experiences and opportunities for your fellow students on campus, as well as advocate for the needs of your building. Building off of all those key points there, coming into community, like there's lots of programming that occurs within each month. We have upwards of 300 events that are run each semester by our RA teams this past year. And so that provides lots of opportunities to get involved around campus, regardless of which building you're in, and meet fellow students who reside within your communities. As well as we do often engage with other organizations, both as part of the community and external within the town of Wolfville, towards leadership opportunities or ways in which to get involved through volunteerism or other ways of connection. And then there's also that piece that Addie was talking about, where we being resided in the town of Wolfville, there's ways in which we're able to easily access the world of which around us. So town itself is probably from the furthest point to get to the downtown core upwards of 10 minutes, which is a very short distance to get into the town via walking. But again, we do have municipal transit systems as well as other means of getting around the valley to explore. And the beautiful thing, similar to our class sizes, where we do really encourage small classroom features, within residency, folks do live with about 25 people per section within all of our buildings on campus. So not only are you building tight-knit academic settings, but you're also building that within your communities on campus. And finally, just to speak to, I guess, a bit of when I say resident assistant, we also have another structure here on campus that supports the wellness of our students, which is just worth kind of recognizing them here, as we often love to use our acronyms on campus. The RA is someone who's directly overseeing the community in which they live within with other students. So they're a student leadership or a student staff member, and their main role is to serve as that peer mentor, and assist the other students that they oversee within their sections and buildings, versus the RLCs, which are professional staff members here within Residence Life that directly oversee this team, but also are available 24/7 and serve as professional staff members dedicated to the wellness of individuals living on campus. So there's a support available to folks living on campus 24/7 through any means. And just to speak a little bit further to our communities that we're hosting this year, for the past 3 years, we have run themed communities on our campus. This year being our third, where we are offering 6 different themed communities for the 2024-25 year. That include a creative corridor, get outdoors, music enthusiast, the server, wise and substance free, where all the descriptions can be found through our residents application process. But essentially themed communities are just intentional living spaces that maybe for some folks who are coming in who are not very familiar with other people coming to Acadia, or want a little bit of maybe some indirect assistance with meeting people who share similar hobbies or interests or like-mindedness. These communities are intentionally designed to create these pathways for folks coming onto campus to develop some support networks, meet other students, and directly get involved in opportunities and experiences that meet their interests. So folks living in the creative corridor, for example, will be exposed to experiences and opportunities that really dive into creativity, arts, and making, and are otherwise going through that together with other students who live within that physical section as well. These are all overseen by RAs who share the exact same passions as otherwise indicated within the themed communities.
Okay, so now I have some important dates for you all. First and foremost, room selection is going on right now and it's available through your residence portal. You do not need a time slot to choose a room at this point in time. The time slots have kind of already happened. And now for everyone who doesn't have a room yet, you're able to go into the residence portal and select a room. If you have not applied for residence yet, and that's something that you're looking to do, we would encourage you to apply as soon as possible, and get in there and pick a room that you would like. There's some next steps on the next slide that kind of go a little bit deeper in how do you get to that room selection spot on your portal. Also good to know, we are running wait lists from right now until the end of summer. So if you do log onto your residence portal and you don't get the room that you would like, or you have another building that you prefer, or you don't get the room type that you want, you're able to join a wait list for example, a single room in Eaton House. And those are available on the homepage of your residence portal. You can self-select onto those wait lists. Early August, we'll be sending out a communication regarding meal plan selection. So you will be able to log into the residence portal once again and choose the meal plan that you want for the fall. This will be communicated via your Acadia email address, so I would start keeping an eye on that. And then lastly, August 27th is move-in day for the fall. So that day we will be expecting everybody to be moving into campus, moving into their residence buildings, and there'll be lots of activities going on from that day on. And I will highlight as another important date, sorry, Brent. Some of you may be coming in the winter semester instead of the fall semester, or you're planning to come in the fall and then plans change and you're going to defer to the winter semester. We have a different residence application for the winter only semester, which will be coming out in November. So if you decide not to come in the fall, then you'll be able to wait and apply for residence in November, and then you'll get a winter only booking for your room instead of both terms. So I did just want to briefly mention that. There'll be lots of more information of that coming out once we kind of get on campus and the term starts. But I did just want to let you know that that is an option as well too. And now we can move on. So here's a little bit more information about room selection and how you get to that stage of your application. The first step is to accept your offer of admissions to Acadia. And once you do this, you will then be able to activate your network account. Your network account will allow you to get into that email address that we were previously talking about, and then it'll also allow you to apply for residence using our residence portal. So you should find all that information once you've accepted your offer in your admissions portal, and you should find the instructions to get to the residence portal from there. Once you're into the residence portal, you are able to put in all your personal information, and then continue on to complete a roommate profile, which is something I would highly recommend completing. Even if you aren't planning on having a roommate or you're not planning on living in a double room, it's good to complete that profile, just so in case we have to assign you a double room, or in case you have to assign a double room, you're able to find a roommate that's a decent match for you. And then at this point, you are able to continue past that roommate profile stage and get to the actual room selection part of the application. You're able to filter by building or by room type. Once you get to that page, add the room to the cart in the portal, like you're checking out on an online shopping website or booking a hotel room or anything like that. Able to add that item to cart, and then you're able to check out and confirm your booking for that room for fall 2024, winter 2025. And then your homepage should take you to an application confirmation, booking confirmation page, which has your room number and your room type in your building that you're able to view. And then also it'll take you to the wait list page as well too, if you're looking to book a room on the wait list. Here are some email addresses that would be beneficial for you folks if you wanted to take a screenshot of this page or write these down really quickly. The first one is our general residence life email address. Any kind of concerns about residents, whether it's what to bring to residents, what rooms are available, residence fees, all of those things. If you can't find any information on the website or you're having trouble, feel free to reach out to that email address. There's somebody monitoring that email address Monday to Friday, 8:30 to 4:30. So they should get back to you relatively quickly. The next email address is my personal email address. So if you have any questions about room selection specifically, or the application, or if you're having any technical issues with the application, that would be a good place to start. I can always give you a hand or point you in the right direction. And then we have Brent's email address if you had any questions about programming for him, or you just wanted to, say hi. And lastly, we have Olivia Lynch, she is the conduct coordinator on campus. If we had any questions about student code of conduct, rules and residence, or any of those expectations, she would be a good person to ask. And I did also just want to mention, we are kind of resuscitating our Instagram account. So we'll be posting lots of room tours, building profiles, and as well just general updates, as well as lots of other things on the Instagram over the summer. So if you want to see some pictures of some buildings on campus, or maybe like a little tour or pictures of campus or anything like that, we will be posting lots of stuff on the Instagram. So you're able to scan that QR code and give us a follow, and maybe your room will get featured on the Instagram as like a little tour. So that's a good way to see what you're in for with the buildings that you're booking. Okay, Mary Kate.
Hey, thanks. Okay, so I'm just going to go over what we do in the off-campus housing office, just to give you a bit of an overview. Like Brent and Addie talked about, there are many ways a community is built within campus if you live in residence, but for off-campus, it's a bit harder to meet people outside of your classes. So we're trying to build a better community amongst the folks that live off campus. So that's one thing we do, but our primary focus is supporting students on their search for housing. So we go from, how do you start to how do you actually reach out to a landlord, anything that you have questions about. And then we also provide guidance and support on any housing issues that may come up throughout your stay. So our advisors are fellow students. We live in Wolfville as well, and we have experience renting. So any issues that come up, we may have experience ourselves, and you'll likely see us around the community. Okay, so what you should know is that in Wolfville, there are many websites, and landlords post often, and listings go up and then they go down pretty quickly. So we recommend that you check the websites often, and I'll go over what those websites are in a moment. But that's kind of the most important thing, is to just be kind of quick to be checking and kind of be on that. Another thing is that when you're renting a place, you'll likely sign a lease or a sublease. Usually leases are a 1-year commitment, and it's a legal document that you'll sign with your landlord. Some leases are a little bit different. You'll sign those usually with a student who has already signed a lease but is gone for a period of time. So typically in Wolfville, that would be a student-to-student lease. And if you have any questions about those, you can email me and we can go over that. But usually you'll see a lease on a listing. The other thing you should know is the location of the listing that you're looking at. And this will be important if you have a car or if you need to walk to campus. You'll want to live in Wolfville, whereas if you have a car, you can live in maybe one of the surrounding towns. But that will kind of come down to your own personal situation. Another thing you should know before you start your search is your budget, and this will help you kind of filter out any listing that's maybe above your budget or outside of your needs. And then finally is your personal preference. So think about what you would want out of your housing situation. Are you, open to sharing a house with multiple people so you can kind of maybe make some friendships? Or are you maybe looking for something more private and just have a 1-bedroom apartment? Those are all important things to know before you start your search. Okay, so like I mentioned, there are many websites. Most commonly, landlords will post on Kijiji and Facebook Marketplace. So yeah, I would definitely recommend checking those like almost daily if you can. And then besides those are happypad.com and Places for Students. Those are also 2 reputable websites that we check as well. And then as well for Acadia students, there's a Facebook group called Acadia Housing, Renting and Looking. This is more what you'll see here is students who have maybe rented a house and they have a bedroom available that they're looking to fill. Less often are landlords posting their listings here. But one thing to note is we have had a number of scams happen within this group and on Facebook and Kijiji in general. So just be cautious when you're looking for listings, and I'll go over a couple things that you can kind of look out for to avoid those. Okay, so I'm assuming that many of you probably aren't in the Wolfville area, and that's okay if you're looking for housing off campus. Unlike residents, we don't have photos of necessarily every listing, but you can ask us to go and look at the place for you. We offer that service through our department, so as long as you give us some advance notice if you're interested in a place, but you'd like to maybe have a better idea of what it's like, we can go on your behalf and ask any questions that you may have outside of what's in the posting. Yeah, so that's just something that you can reach out to us and we can do for you. Okay, so just a couple things that we thought would be helpful to kind of go over, and some of this may be familiar to some of you if you've rented before, but just some common items. In leases, you'll see sometimes that there are rules, and unfortunately, there's rules to every place that you live. Some common rules that you'll maybe see are, no parties at a place or no smoking on the premises. Those are just important to review your lease and make sure that you understand those, because where your lease is a legal document, if you void some of those rules, you could be subject to some repercussions there. So just keep an eye out for those things and make sure that you discuss anything that maybe isn't okay with you with your landlord before you sign that lease. And then just some things to know is like statutory conditions are a bare minimum that you should have in a place. So if you move into a place, it should be up to a certain level of cleanliness, and there should be some basic amenities provided, such as like running water and working plumbing, anything like that. And you're also entitled to peaceful enjoyment. So for instance, if you have maybe an upstairs neighbor that's kind of unruly and is kind of keeping you up all the time, then you have the right to live in a peaceful place. So you can always bring those things up with your landlord. Another thing that we've kind of noticed is that Tenants don't know that your landlord have to give you 24 hours notice before entry unless it's an emergency. So this means that your landlord shouldn't be just dropping in unannounced. They should be giving you kind of written notice of why they're coming over as well before they do, unless it's stated in your lease. So that's another reason to kind of make sure that you review that pretty carefully. And then another thing that's helpful to know is that you're expected to pay a security deposit when you sign a lease. So this is kind of like an insurance for landlords, so that over the length of your stay, if you damage the property outside of normal wear and tear, they kind of have an amount of money put aside that they can use to make those repairs to the place. But typically, if you are a good tenant and you haven't caused any damage, that should be returned to you at the end of your stay. Another thing that's helpful to know is that in Nova Scotia, there's a rent control. So if you sign a lease throughout the first 12 months of that lease, your landlord can't increase the amount of your rent. And then after the first 12 months, they can only increase it by a maximum of 5% each year of your rent. So that's just helpful to know if your landlord, reaches out to you and says, hey, I have to increase your rent by like double the amount. They're actually not allowed to do that. So just some couple things to kind of keep in mind. If you haven't lived on your own before, you haven't lived or rented before, it can feel a bit intimidating at times, but just know that as a tenant, you do have rights, and we do have some legal resources if you ever needed to reach out to somebody, if you got into a situation where you maybe needed some representatives. But that's why we're here. You can always reach out to us and maybe discuss something with us. Usually you don't need to take any legal action. We can kind of help you find a solution to whatever conflict you're dealing with. And yeah, just reach out to us if you have any questions about any of that. Okay, so just some kind of tips we thought would be helpful for someone who's reaching out maybe to landlords for the first time. Is just, if you see a listing, just introduce yourself, tell them a little bit about you, maybe say, hey, I'm like a student at Acadia. I really like your listing. It's important to show some interest. Often landlords will receive maybe hundreds of emails about a place. So if you like the place and you really want to live there, the more interest you can show and the more initiative you can take. Typically that kind of makes you stand out against other people, so it can just help you get the place that you want. And then along with that is just responding promptly to any messages that a landlord may send you. Again, it's important not to leave them a couple days without responding, because they'll likely just move on to the next person that's reached out to them. And then another thing that we recommend is always request a viewing. This is really important. It gives you a chance to chat with the landlord, get a feel for them, and then also see anything that's not maybe shown in your photos, or just gives you a better sense of the place as well. And then so just some things that we recommend not doing, which you're probably aware of, but just maybe helps to know, is just don't share any too personal or any financial information that you don't need to give landlords. For instance, a landlord who's reputable would never need to know your date of birth or your banking information. And then, on Facebook Marketplace, there's that handy auto respond message with, is this available? We recommend, again, not using that because it just doesn't show that you're overly interested in the listing. It doesn't show that you'll kind of stand out amongst other people. So we recommend just writing your own message if you can. And then we also recommend not asking any questions that the landlord's already answered in the listing. So if, for instance, the landlord mentions that utilities are not included, and then you ask in your question, are utilities included in the price? Just kind of shows that you haven't really read the listing, and, might kind of annoy them. So we just ask you to, or recommend that you just review the post and ask any questions that are not answered. And finally, we recommend not making a generic post that you're looking for accommodations. just because the current situation, landlords receive so many emails that they're generally not going to be responding to anybody that posts on Facebook Marketplace or any of these places who are looking for accommodations. And what we do find is that if you make one of those posts, sometimes people who will respond maybe are looking to scam you. So yeah, we recommend just not doing that. Okay, so I've mentioned rental scams a couple times, and we just kind of wanted to go over and give you some tips on how to look out for those things. So unfortunately, we have had a number of students who have reported that they've been scammed or tried to have been scammed. And the first thing that we always recommend is if you see a listing, take the address in that listing and then post it into Google Maps. And you can use the Street Finder view and see if there's actually a house at that listing. That's been pretty helpful because sometimes there isn't a house, and right away you can kind of remove that listing and say, okay, that doesn't exist. And we found that's been pretty helpful. And if there's a listing and the landlord hasn't given the address, you can always reach out to them and ask them to provide you with the address, and then you can kind of look at it that way. We also recommend to never send any money before you have viewed the place or before you've signed a lease. So that's really important. If they're asking you for a refundable deposit, just don't send any money until you've actually signed the lease. And then again, don't give out any personal information to just kind of protect yourself in that way. Always request a viewing again, kind of went over that one. And then just trust your gut. If you're getting like a bit of a fishy vibe from this person, then maybe just leave it be. They're as intimidating as it can feel and as stressful as it can be. If you're not feeling comfortable with the interaction, then it's worth it just to either reach out to us and ask our opinion, or just move on to the next listing. And finally, if you have been scammed, unfortunately it happens, just report it and contact your bank, and again, reach out to us and see if there's any way that we can help. So these are just some scams that have been kind of sent to us, and I thought it might just be helpful to kind of go over some of the things that you can maybe look for if you're interacting with any of these people. So these are just some messages that we kind of received screenshots from. So you'll see that in the first message, they sent the address and some photos, which is great. But then you'll see that they asked for a $200 refundable security deposit. So the first thing that I noticed there is that refundable is a bit of an odd word to use there. Yes, your security deposit should be returned to you at the end of your stay, but it's not typically refundable if before you have seen the place. And then you can see in the next kind of screenshot that they say that the security deposit helps you secure the apartment. That's not true. That will never help you secure an apartment. So a landlord should not be asking you for that. So those are just some kind of red flags to look out for there. Okay, and then this is where I mentioned that you can take the address and put it into Google Maps. So we did that with this address, and on the left you'll see is two photos of the yellow house, which is the house that exists at that address in Wolfville, and then on the right is a photo that the listing sent to the person. So you can kind of compare things. Like in this photo, it's kind of obvious because they have a really big window that's like floor to ceiling high, and you can see that it doesn't exist in the Google Maps photos. So that's another thing you can kind of do. You can look at photos, try and determine if it's legitimate or not. But again, it can be really hard and really confusing. So you can always reach out to us and ask our opinion. And yeah, so you can also read our website. We have a lot of details there about living off campus and the community of Wolfville. And follow us on Instagram for any kind of housing content and updates that we put out. And then if you're curious about living off campus, you can send us an email and we can set up a meeting and we can chat further. And that's all I had. So thanks so much.
We can open it up to some questions now if folks want to. I'm not sure if we want to type them in the chat or put our hands up and ask them out loud. Whatever folks feel comfortable doing.
Yeah, it's whatever you're comfortable with. And that was a great presentation. I actually learned a few things, so thank you for that.
Great.